So Justlube is a relatively new lube brand that I've only heard about when I received them for myself. The red one, Y81, this is a high viscosity silicone lube. Like, it slows the cube down and makes it gummier. Y71, which is the yellow one, makes the cube faster and also smoother. And then this Shadowless kick is the blue one, and it's a water-based lube. Since I have received the Justlube set as a bundle rather than individually, I ended up treating these three loops similar to how I would treat the Angstrom loops, specifically Y81 and Cubewerkz, Y71 and Dignitas, Shadowless kick and DNM. The heavy loop, which is Y81, the places I'll put these loops in are very similar to where I'll put Cubewerkz, which is the ring area of the even layered cube. At the very base there's a roots area, meaning on this face here and the back face here, as well as the corner base. That's where I'll put Y81. For Y71, the places I tend to put it is similar to where I'll put Dignitas, which is on the outer area, the head region. So this is the root, the bottom, the inner part is the roots, then the big part here is like the head area, but just I'll put it on mainly the flat surfaces here and maybe the back. So the exceptions is if I want to speed up or slow down certain layers, because this is the thicker loop will slow down the cube, or the thinner one to speed it up. So that's useful for things like 6x6, where I can purposely make the second layer slower and make it very similar to the third layer and speed up the outer. And then that will make a nice 3x3 stage as well as a nice edges stage, because I can just pull out and insert like really fast, while like the rest of the cube sticks together and stays stable. It's like Shadowless kick, I'll use it in a similar manner to how I use DNM. In general, I'm not a fan of water-based loops, but like the main use I have for it is if I set up a cube for the first time with the heavier loops, then it tends to be a bit slower and gummier, and then the water-based loops, because it helps to speed the newly set up cube and helps the break-in process be a bit nicer. I do think it's possible to interchange these two and use them as a set like this or like that, but I wouldn't recommend interchanging like one of the main ingredients. The result I get with the Justlube set is actually very different from what I got from the Angstrom set. So okay, with the Angstrom set, I think the best cube to explain this is my own 4x4 main, the Maylong 4. Angstrom loops basically work by having micro abrasive particles mixed with silicone, and okay, there are other ingredients in it. I'm simplifying the function a lot, but with microabrasive is basically how polishing works. Repeatedly rubbing it against a surface will make that surface smoother, and I think that's really what I got on my Maylong 4. So you can see how shiny it is inside. Basically, it's a loop that kind of polishes your cube as you play with it. And the feeling I get is one that's relatively dry and clean and thin feel. It doesn't have a thick gummy layer with it. With the Justlube series, especially the Y81, which is supposed to make the cube gummier. In general, I found that these two have been really useful in cubes like the MGC6 and basically the entire Maylong series, I would say. Because with the Maylong 5, what happens is that this cube is frosted by default. So by throwing in the gummy loops, it helps to subdue the frosted feel and make it a lot smoother and gummier and closer to a premium Moyi cube in a way. And with the MGC6, if you have seen my original review of this cube, I also complained that the second and third layer are a little bit clicky and crunchy. I managed to subdue that a lot with the Justlube series, and I don't think I can achieve that on Angstrom. Okay, so I'm going to be putting the Justlubes into the RS4M, and this can also double up as a lubing guide for an even layered cube. So I'm going to be lubing this cube without actually disassembling the whole cube. Although it's not as thorough as lubing the entire cube, of course, but if you just want to get it quick, you can use this method if you want. So of course, first step, just disassemble a section, and this is the only section that I really bother to disassemble for now. And the next thing you need to look at is the XB alignment mechanism. So it consists of a circle and a square. The circle is not supposed to move, the square will rotate around, and on the circle there should be a bump that's attached, but you don't want to see the bump. So let's say if you disassembled the wrong side of the cube and you do see the bump, all you need to do is just DW2 and the bump should be over on the other side here. And the reason why I don't want you to be seeing the bump is because when you rotate this disassembled side, you now have the ability to interchange which center is being exposed, and from there you actually can reach out to 4 centers. What I'm going to do now is I'm going to take the heaviest of the loops, so this is the Y81, and I'm going to pull out 2 of the small internal pieces like that. Then I'm just going to hold on to the big internal piece and dump them out. After that, you can actually just push this thing down. So you want the tip to go underneath, and you want the loop to go under the circle and above the square, so somewhere around there. The next step is you rotate and then expose the blue center, and basically you just repeat the same process for all the remaining centers. One thing to pay attention to is if you spill a little bit of excess, you just wipe it off on the top, because you don't want the outside surface and the underside here to have the thick loop. You only want the thick loop in between where the circle and the square touch each other. If you get any of those on the top surface or on the bottom surface, it's as good as getting heavy loop stuck under this entire wing, because that's where the cross section lies. You risk slowing down the middle layer of the cube, which is not what you want. And after you're done with all 4 of the centers, then you do a U or a U prime, which in this case, doing a U will expose this bump. So instead I will do a U prime. And what this does is, now the last 2 centers that I didn't loop are white and yellow, and now they are along the same axis as the disassembled side. After that, it's the same process to the 2 sides. So the next step is to start reassembling your cube. Okay, and when you're down to the last block here, you can start lubing the pieces and have to pre-decide beforehand. Or you can, alternatively, if you have forgotten, you can always reassemble this block and turn your cube to try it out. But the point here is that you have to know which layer is very fast and which layer is slow, and decide where do you want to speed up or slow down your cube. And this is specific to the IS4M, but you can, for a different cube, you just try it out and make a different decision. In the case of the RS4M, the outer layer is actually very fast, the inner one is slower. So what I'm going to do is, I'm going to apply the lower viscosity one throughout the entire inner. Like that. And for the outer layer, I'm going to apply the higher viscosity one. Like that. Yep, just a bit on the roots. You can apply here if you want, but okay, in the case of the IS4, since the speed difference is a little bit extreme, I'm going to do that. But let's say if this was another cube, I might do a combination of like just high viscosity on both roots, and then along the stem and the head I will put the low viscosity. I mean, that will be my default option, but the IS4 is kind of an exceptional case because of the speed difference of the 2 layers. Then just reassemble the rest of the cube. The IS4M has gotten a lot softer and a lot silkier and smoother after I put in those loops. Okay, I think it's quite a smooth cube to begin with. The outer layer has dampened down quite a little bit, and the inner layer is significantly faster. If you remember, I did the plus mod to this cube earlier on, but in a way it was heavy, and in a way I also wanted to use the magnets elsewhere. So before I filmed this video, I actually undid the plus mod. Imagine the original status of the IS4M where the inners have stronger magnets and the outers are super weak. But right now, because I've slowed the outer layer down with the Y81 and sped the inner up with the Y71 in a way, the speed actually feels it feels quite equal, I would say. in terms of the amount of force I need to turn both layers. Honestly, I think this cube is quite nice right now.